Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to journey to a single, incredibly sacred place and unpack, about 2,000 years of history. We're talking about Mount Wutai.
Or Wutai Shan, and this is truly foundational stuff. It's China's earliest, probably its most prestigious Buddhist center.
Right, known all over the world as the home of Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom.
Exactly. It's one of the 4 sacred Buddhist mountains of China, and more recently, a UNESCO World Heritage Site as of 2009.
But it's so much more than just an ancient site. It's this incredible spiritual melting pot, isn't it?
It really is. You get this amazing blend of Han Chinese, Tibetan, and Mongolian Buddhist traditions all coexisting, sometimes peacefully, sometimes not, on this one massive sacred landscape.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. Mount Wutai is not some static monument. It's always been changing.
Constantly. So we want to trace how these huge shifts in, say, imperial politics or Buddhist ideology didn't just change the ideas, they physically reshaped the mountain.
The architecture, the pilgrimage routes themselves.
Everything. We'll look at 3 key eras: the Northern Way, then the Tang Dynasty, and finally, the Qing.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we start? The ground itself, I guess. What is it about the physical setting that made it so special?
Well, the geography is really unique. You have these 5 high, flat-topped peaks: west, central, south, east, and the North Peak, which is the highest. It's over 3,000 meters.
Which is why it was called Mount Qingliang, the cool mountain.
Right, it's cool up there. But even before the Buddhists arrived, it was already sacred ground. The Taoists knew it as Mount Zifu, a place where immortals lived.
So the idea of a holy mountain was already there. The Buddhists weren't starting from scratch.
Not at all. They were tapping into a really ancient tradition. Chinese emperors had been worshipping divine mountains for centuries, and Taoists would, carry these maps, like the genuine map of the 5 sacred mountains, for protection.
So Buddhism had to either compete with that or co-opt it.
Exactly. And that brings us to the first monastery, which is where it gets really interesting. How did they get a foothold?
It seems like they made a very bold move.
Audacious is the word for it. The first monastery, Dafulingji, which later becomes the Great Shantung, was built incredibly early. We're talking somewhere between 28 and 75 CE.
During the Han Dynasty.
Right. And some Indian monks go to Emperor Ming, and their pitch is basically, "Your Majesty, the shape of Mount Wutai. It's a perfect match for the Holy Eagle Peak in India."
Wow.
And the crucial part, it contains genuine Buddha relics. So they're not just arguing faith, they're arguing geography, destiny.
A direct physical link between China and the heart of Buddhism.
Precisely. And the emperor bought it, he approved it, and that's the beginning. That's the first official stamp of approval.
Okay, let's jump forward a few centuries to our first big phase, the Northern Wei Dynasty.
Right, from about 386 to 534, and this period is what scholars call a free development stage.
Meaning what, exactly? A kind of Wild West?
Kind of, yeah. The imperial court wasn't really focused on Wutai. All the big money and resources were going to projects near the capitals, like the huge grottos at Yungang and Longmen.
So construction at Wutai was more organic.
Informal, unsystematic, people built where they could, often just following the natural lines of the valleys. There wasn't a grand plan.
And pilgrims in that era, how are they getting there?
Mostly through the South Gate, the Muhe Pass. We have records of Emperor Shaowen using that route for his own pilgrimages. So that was the main way in.
There's this amazing detail in the source material that even the mountains themselves weren't fixed yet.
I love this part. It shows how fluid the identity of the place still was. The peak they called the Central Peak back then is actually what we call the Northern Peak today.
And the old Southern Peak is now the Central Peak.
Exactly. They were still figuring it out, still mapping their ideas onto the landscape. The final systematic pattern just wasn't there yet.
Which brings us to phase 2. If the first phase was fluid, the Tang Dynasty sounds like it was all about imposing order.
A complete and total transformation. The sheer scale of belief and investment during the Tang is just staggering. The government officially recognized something like 5,300 monasteries nationwide.
The faith was everywhere.
And the state was pouring money into it. They built almost 4,000 new monasteries. Wutai became a major focus, especially for esoteric Buddhism, or Mizong.
What did that mean for the mountain?
Well, Mizong is very focused on rituals, gestures, mantras. It's about action. And a brilliant Indian monk, Amoghavajra, saw an opportunity. He took the existing legend of Manjushri and just supercharged it.
Cementing Wutai as the definitive home of the Bodhisattva of wisdom, the Manjushri Bodhimancha.
The one and only. And what's so fascinating is how they made that idea physical. They didn't just build a temple.
They redesigned the whole mountain.
They turned it into a mantala, a cosmic diagram. This is the concept of the mantalization of space.
So the 5 peaks weren't just hills anymore.
No, now they had meaning. They were the throne of the 5 wisdom Tathagatas. Or, and this is the more memorable image, the 5 hair knots of Manjushri Bodhisattva.
The whole mountain becomes a statue, in a way, and a diagram needs a center point.
And they created one. The rebuilt pulsating monastery, right at the foot of the central peak. That became the absolute spiritual and architectural heart of this new landscape.
And getting to that heart was a totally controlled experience.
Totally. They set up 4 main gates, north, south, east, and west. And then around the outside, they built 36 peripheral monasteries.
A buffer zone.
A transitional zone. So as a pilgrim, you had to pass through this very specific designed sequence to get from the normal world to the divine center.
And we actually have proof that people were using these new routes.
We do. The diary of a Japanese monk named Enin is invaluable. He was traveling there around 840 CE, and he talks about using the east access, the Longquan Gate, on his journey. It confirms this new system was up and running.
Before we move on to the next big political shift, we just have to stop and talk about the buildings themselves. Some of these wooden halls they're miracles.
True survivors. Let's start with Nanshan Temple. Its Great Buddha Hall was built in 782.
Which makes it
the oldest preserved timber building in all of China.
Wow. How did it survive? It was built right before the great anti-Buddhist persecution of 845.
It was just so remote, so isolated. The authorities probably just missed it. It's a fairly humble, low-status building, too, which likely helped it fly under the radar.
But its contents weren't so lucky.
Sadly, no. It had 17 original Tang statues inside. Manjushri on his lion, the whole set. But 3 of those priceless statues were stolen in 1999.
And a pagoda, too, later on.
A Northern Waystone pagoda was taken in 2011. It's just heartbreaking. The word preserved always comes with an asterisk.
But the building itself was saved by this incredible restoration effort in the 70s.
Oh, absolutely. The Luojia Changshu project, I mean, you have to picture this. They took the oldest wooden building in China apart, piece by piece.
That sounds terrifying.
High-stakes surgery. They were injecting experimental epoxy resins into the damaged wood, using traditional metal hoops, and crucially, stripping away centuries of later additions to restore the original deep, overhanging Tang-style eaves.
So they were using 1970s chemistry and ancient craftsmanship at the same time.
A race against time to save a masterpiece. And it worked.
And not far away, there's the other great survivor, Fogwang Temple.
Right, built a bit later, 857. Its East Main Hall is the 3rd oldest wooden building in China. It was sort of lost and then rediscovered in 1937, full of original Tang statues and murals. It's a time capsule.
For anyone visiting today, though, the main hub is that Central Valley town, Taiwai.
That's the core, yeah. That's where you find the biggest complexes. Shintong, the oldest and largest, with that incredible bronze hall with 10,000 tiny Buddhas.
And Taiyuan Temple, with a huge white stupa.
The iconic Tibetan-style stupa, you see pilgrims circling it constantly. And of course, Pusading, the old Tang center, later an imperial monastery. You still have to climb 108 steps to get there.
A symbolic purification.
Exactly.
Which brings us to our 3rd and final phase. The Qing Dynasty. A new set of emperors, a new focus.
And this is what really defines the mountain's character today. You have these powerful emperors, Kangxi and Qianlong, who were frequent pilgrims, and their patronage really solidified this blend of Tibetan and Han Buddhism. They made it official, in a way.
And this is where the geopolitics gets so clear. The capital of China moves from Chang'an to Beijing.
And that one decision completely rewrites 1,000 years of pilgrimage routes.
How so?
For centuries, the South Gate was the main entrance. During the Tang, the East Gate was popular. But once the emperors are in Beijing, what's the easiest way for them to get to Wutai?
The East entrance. The Great Wall Gate.
Precisely, Longquanguan. So the emperor's preferred route becomes the primary route for everyone. Imperial convenience literally dictates the most important spiritual road. Politics reshapes sacred geography.
That is just a phenomenal insight. And the Tibetan connection really blossoms here, too.
It does. I mean, Tibetans had known about Wutai for a long time. They called it Rebort Selunga. But a real institutional presence only started modestly in the Mongol Yuan era. It's under the king that it really flourishes, with that direct imperial support.
This brings us right up to the modern era, where the mountain's sacred value runs headfirst into a very different kind of value.
Resource extraction. This is the modern crisis. And the paradox is baked right into its UNESCO application.
How so?
Well, the document that celebrates its incredible cultural landscape also notes that the area has rich mineral resources, iron ore, copper, gold, and that these have great science researching value.
So the two conflicting ideas were sitting right there next to each other, and the mining went ahead.
With devastating results. A 2007 report documented it. They were using explosives. Locals said it was like living through an earthquake, 3 blasts a day.
And the damage was real.
Immense. A peak between the south and west peaks was reportedly almost leveled.
In the tremors, they were actually reaching the ancient temples.
Yes. The abbot at Jinj Monastery described how statues inside the halls were literally collapsing from the vibrations. They had to pour concrete just to hold the Ming and Qing era structures together.
Unbelievable.
Ancient frescoes were splitting. You could see daylight through the cracks in the walls. It was a direct physical assault on the very heritage we've been discussing.
So what was the solution for the UNESCO bid?
A massive $60 million relocation project. They moved about 1,000 residents, cleared out disruptive buildings, essentially trying to carve out a protected bubble to restore the serenity of the core site. So what does all this really mean for you as you think about this? Mount Wutai is just a perfect record of how power writes itself onto a landscape.
It's an evolution you can literally walk through.
Right. You start with that kind of accidental local growth in the northern way. Then it's transformed by the Tang into this meticulous cosmic mandala. And then finally, it's redefined again by the king emperors in Beijing, who literally shift the front door for everybody from the south to the east.
The whole spiritual geography was never fixed. It was a canvas.
A flexible canvas, constantly being repainted by politics and faith.
And that repainting continues. It's just that the forces are different now. Not emperors or monks, but modern economics. Irreplaceable history versus extractable wealth.
Which leaves us with a really important question, I think. Consider how the spiritual meaning of a place, whether it's defined by a natural valley, a cosmic diagram, or just an imperial road, how does that significance survive and adapt even as its physical form is constantly being reshaped, sometimes violently, by devotion on one side and demolition on the other?
An essential thought to end on. If you really want to understand how faith and power work together, you have to look at the roads people walk, because more often than not, those paths were chosen by the people at the top, not the pilgrims on the ground.